everything you're feeling collectively as a family is normal. Now, I'm not that guy over here. I'll let him, take over this conversation because I don't want to say something, open my mouth and insert my foot. But Gary, I mean, walk them through everything that they're going through right here in terms of their emotional fear about, Aubrey.
Oh, absolutely. There is someone that Chris and I know who some months ago went through exactly the same thing. Who, when one of his children hit the age at which he had lost a family member, he went through an emotional crisis and couldn't put his finger on why. And I said to him, because in your mind, that's the age at which life ends, instead of just being, the beginning of life. Because your brain, just can't get around this unnatural experience. I have to tell you that what you guys went through is not natural. It's not the natural course of events of the way things are supposed to go. And it's too much for the best of us. I have to tell you that the way that you guys have channeled it into what you do, and you go out there and you try to help people and so forth, is pretty amazing. I have to, I mean, Chris and Karen, I feel the same way often. It's an extraordinary thing. I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about where your daughter's values came from, right? I mean, she didn't come out of a vacuum, right? I mean, and I just think it says so much about your character. And the only way that I've ever seen anybody deal with this is to make meaning out of it and to cling to faith and to cling to the community instead of saying, this person has made me cynical and I'm going to go out and hate the world now. When you do that, you basically become no better. And so when ugliness comes into your life like that, you have to say, just because there's ugliness like this in the world, it doesn't mean that there isn't a God who can love us. Just because this ugliness can happen in the world, it doesn't mean that the whole world is terrible. It doesn't mean that I should give up on everything and close myself up. And it becomes a strange wake up call for the rest of us about what life is about, and the what's coursing through us, this life that's coursing through us, and the way we're supposed to spend it. And I think you two exemplify, the goodness in people, which is exactly what um, makes me so pleased to see you here, is that you're in the face of ugliness and someone in the darkness who had to take happiness from other people for whatever reason. You're saying, no, we're not going to let that happen. We're gonna bring goodness into the world. And I think that your daughter, wherever she is, and I think I know where she is, and so do you, I think really does feel proud of you. And I really do believe you should feel her support around you. I have got to tell you, I have talked to many people who have lost people in unimaginable ways, like yourselves. And I think the ones who cling to meaning and faith are the ones who do better. They cling to that. A lot of them talk about the little things that make them feel their loved one is around. Some of them talk about dreams that they have, where the person says, "I'm okay. I can't be at peace unless you are. If you could see where I am now, you'd want to be here too. That kind of thing." I've had people say things like that, and when people are supporting you and they're hugging you and so forth, feel your daughter in that. Every time a stranger comes up and puts their arms around you, say, in a way, that's her. You know, um, since we were talking about things that make me think you're people of faith, I'll say there's a very beautiful line in the book of Hebrews that says, "Always remember to welcome strangers, for there were times you did and welcomed angels without knowing it." And I think what a beautiful line that is in Scripture. Well, you never know. You never know what signs you're getting to let you know that she's okay. But I know she's okay.
And, the good Lord opened a window when he closed the door by sending Judge Hippler. What's your read there?
Yes, absolutely. The change of venue hit us so hard, just because not just the distance, but we knew from the beginning when the trial came no matter how far away it was, we were going to be there. So, Latah County was 2 hours away, and but you could drive there back and forth every day, and we're like, if we have to do that, we have to do that, So when they moved it to Boise, that was not attainable anymore, so we knew that financially, you're gonna have to take off work. A lot of us who wanted to be there, and whoever wants to go, her siblings and whatnot, are entitled to go to that, and we want them there. But for the financial burden, it was hard thinking, well, she can't go because she can't afford it. She can't, who can afford just to take 3 months off work, but the silver lining was Judge Hitler.
Yeah.
So as hard as it's made it for us, we're going to do it. We have our family to give us the strength. We have God to give us the strength, and we thank Him for that strength every day. But Judge Hitler is a blessing.
Yep, 100%.
I don't think we would be here looking at trial in 96 days if it wasn't for him and his the decisions that he's been making. And it feels like we're finally progressing. Like when we were in Latah County, it just feels like we were just constantly getting gut punched, and Shannon would tell us, our attorney, he would say, I don't even know how to counsel you anymore at this. He does, but everything I say is backwards. He would tell us, he would predict how he thinks, that it's going to happen, and how the judge is going to rule and everything else. And it would always be, and he's just like, he's like, it's like upside down. It's like an upside down world there. Like, I don't understand, So, it was very difficult being there.
Well, it was frustrating to watch you guys have to go through what you were doing. I mean, not only you, but obviously the other family members as well. I mean, if it's you guys were kind of, and you still are, on behalf of your daughter, you're kind of the, a forward facing,
they took the lead. They were taking the lead as far as the victims' families go.
The fact that every curveball was mitigated by the gag order, and it still is, and we know that you Steve, have been very diplomatic about wanting to say what and you can't. You just can't. And I think that it got misinterpreted, and it left this void on social media, on mainstream media, just everything. It left this void of people just filling in the gaps without realizing, no, those aren't the facts. Those are not the facts. And that subjected you as a family and the other family members, from both sides, quite frankly, to this, continual gut punch over and over again. And I thought, now that Hitler's here, he brought some leadership and he brought some sanity to the case. And now, these motions, as they keep falling out, week by week, day by day, leading up to the trial, the public is finally wrapping their minds around, oh my gosh, they arrested this guy for murdering, these 4 kids. Now, of course, he's innocent till proven guilty, but that's our system. But at the same time, he's been arrested and he's incarcerated and going on trial for murdering your daughter. And, what I don't want to see and what I hate seeing is this narrative shift where you guys have to constantly defend. And I have to commend you that you've ignored a lot of the garbage out there, right? And keep doing that because, when it's all over and, whatever the result's going to be, how have you been navigating, those roads that are the social media roads, for lack of a better term?
I feel like Somewhere early on, I heard that basically the worst thing that you can do is just remain silent and say nothing and never tell the story of your child and never engage people, because people will only pay attention to what they're actually getting details from. If you're not willing to share your child's story, then you really can't sit back and say, well, why is nobody talking about it? Why is my story not getting any coverage? Or am I going to get justice? I felt like if it was a matter of will and effort, then it was pretty easy for me to just say, okay, I've got the will to make sure that people understand what happened here, and we got to do something. We got to, because I mean, we had almost 7 weeks of no suspect. So yeah. I was very engaged, and I wanted to make sure that we got our voices out there and let people know who these kids were. And there was so much social media stuff already out there that people kind of got a sense that they knew these people, and they seen all these photos and all these pictures and all these videos. And then when you give content to that and say, it is what you think it is. These are just really fun, loving girls having a good time. The people that you'd want, in your neighborhood, that you want your daughter to spend the night with and hang out with, that kind of grew. And it was worth taking. I've even had people say online that, I wish they'd just go away. And it was like, we can't. This is our kid. It's not your kid.
Right.
Okay? You think it's about you, but it's actually about our kids.
Right.
We're not going anywhere. There's nowhere for us to go. This is our life. We were forced to be here. If this was some true crime thing that I was just watching and I was I was talking to the camera all about it, that's justified. I could totally go away. It's not. I'm not in that race. But this is my daughter, so there is no going away from this.
Social media for me, I in the beginning, I was like, I was just reading it all, and a good friend of mine said, do me a favor right now and get out of all those Facebook groups, block them all now. This is like before he was caught. And because I was just it was just a swirl. And I was into it all, just just 24/7, and she said, it's not good for you. Like it's not good for anybody, to be reading all that. And I got out of them. And I stayed out of them. We opened the Goncalves, or we have the Goncalves page. And so we try to keep it, I try to keep it my focus there because it's genuinely love and support. But, ever so often, I'll read some YouTube comments on a video or something, and it is just, it blows my mind how people can hate us. And, our daughter was murdered, brutally murdered, and people hate us. I'm like, because they think he's talking too much, and people don't understand. And I just want to scream to the top of my lungs, like, get your facts straight before you want to speak about our family in these negative ways. There is a gag order. Yes. Our family is not gagged. We are not part of the investigation. People think, they're talking and they're going to, he's going to get off because they can't shut up and this and that. It's like,
we're not agents of the court.
We are not gagged. Our family is not gagged. We could say what we want to say. We could speak about what happened to our daughter. And it's not easy. It's not easy, to give details of what happened to her. Because it is private, but sometimes in this case, you're like, we got to tell people, like, we need to let people know, like, what this person did, as hard as it is to talk about and as hard as it is to share, it's the truth. This person is not right. This person that went in there and did this, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
It's evil.
It's evil, it's straight from hell. It literally is. It's your worst possible nightmare. And people hate us, it's like, it's just hard, and so I really hate social media. besides our page, I just hate it. I just hate it. It's so ugly. It's just so, and people are just so misinformed. And people read the documents that the court is dropping, and they read them and they interpret them in the craziest backwards ways, and we're like, oh my gosh. I mean, there's people with YouTube content, and they have the docs up, and they're reading these docs, and I'm just like, that's how you're interpreting that? Like, it just is twisted minds,
Gary,
people are just twisted, or and they, talk about they need to educate themselves, and they're just, so wrong, and this and that, and this person is innocent, and it just is so, it's just is hard. It's just like, oh, they, saying that Steve was part of it, that he's this crazy billionaire and part of the drug cartel. It's just crazy. It's just crazy. It just is like, their basis is so completely off. I mean, not even an ounce of the truth, not even a fragment, a piece of truth in it. It's like, you completely made that up, like completely made this narrative up and are running with it, and people are actually believing it. It's just, it's mind boggling. It blows your mind. It just blows your mind, and then to think like, this is our family. This is our life. This is, like, sometimes I tell Steve, maybe we should just shut up. Maybe we should just shut up and back, and he's like, absolutely not,
Nobody will take my daughter's voice from me. It's not going to happen. No judge, no court, no investigator, nobody. So that's just not going to happen. And I get where people come from. They always feel like if you're telling the truth, you got nothing to hide. I mean, we grow up from like 3 years old here, and if you're telling the truth, you got nothing to hide. Yeah. That's why I don't like a gag order, because once they say, "Oh, they're hiding something," they don't want people talking about it. So it flips the premise, and then everyone's like, "Well, truth doesn't need to be hidden. So what's going on here?" And yeah, so.
Well, in my career, I've never seen a gag order so broad.
I'm going to challenge it. When it's all said and done, I will challenge this.
Yeah, I think you need to go to your legislators and get the Kaylee Act and make it happen. And we will support you 1,000%.
Yeah, every time the defendant's in the court, how dare you say that the victim's family, the surviving victim, should be there too? So it's so one-sided now. It's like, oh, this person, we got to do everything for this one person. And it's like, there's two parties here. It's not just one party, but all that it seems that it gets so one-sided. And a gag order is, I'm all about leadership. Right? When you see it in the military, when you see it in sports programs, you go after the leadership and you say, the results are you. They come from you, and they come down. And when you get into this gag order and everyone's just sitting around pointing fingers and nobody's saying anything, it seems like such a cop-out. And then the families are just stuck in the middle, and everyone's like, what do you guys know about? What's going on? What's going on here?
Yeah. The speculation, the rumors, the lies, it's all, because it's 2.5 years later, and people have spun the truth, and people have, created their own narratives of what happened, and they put it out there, and it's all because this gag order, I mean, and people think that we know more. They're like, they know more. We don't.
Or
we don't know more.
Tomorrow we have a court case, and they didn't even label it. It's just a sealed.
We don't know what it's about.
This is not Secret Service, like national secrets. I don't understand how our kids got involved in a murder that is being treated with more secrecy than I've ever seen in my life. I just don't get it. It's North Idaho, small little town. What are we here to hide? I don't get it. But yeah, we'll definitely push back on this, because it's just ridiculous for a family to be left in the dark for 3 years. We still haven't got all the last moments of our child's life. We haven't got our laptop and tablet. And my daughter's going to college right now. I would love for her to have Kaylee's, laptop and be like,